week 5 meeting, technically week 6, but woo! Yeah. The music stopped. That's how you know it's serious. Okay, welcome to RITSEC weekly meetings. Woo! Join the Discord. We're gonna drop the sign in right now. Chase is on that because he's great. And then after that, you can sign in. This helps us know who's coming to the club, and it also means that you guys can get pizza, free pizza. And if you guys have 3 or more sign-ins, you're officially an RITSEC member, which is really important. Check the calendar. We have a bunch of fun, spooky events on there. Fun and spooky, I mean IRSEC is on that calendar. That's super great. And same with like Lisa CTF and all of our interest groups. So if you have any questions of what's happening when, just go to the calendar. RITSEC mailing list. Join to get our weekly newsletters so you know what the presentations are before you come in. So you know like the research presentations and what the weekly topic is. And other fun events too. RITSEC feedback. We want to hear what your guys' opinions are on our presentations, on what we do. Just let us know. Finally, announcements. This is my favorite part. RITSEC. Can't forget this date. November 4th, 2023. Unfortunately, both blue team and black team signups have closed, but you can sign up for white team. White team essentially helps run the competitions during the actual competition day. They go around and help with any issues the competitors are having, help relay information from competitors to red team to black team. So black team doesn't have to be down in the room watching how everybody's doing. They can keep everything up, keep everything running through their end, and then if a problem happens, they can be grabbed by white team. White team is really how we run these competitions on the day of. They're very helpful, help with setup, help with tear down, and they're just great. So sign up for that. If you're blue team, you can't sign up for white team. Same with black team. Web admin application closes today. If you would like to be the web admin, i.e. run the site for RITSEC and be an A board member, that closes today. So get your application in. As well as the social media application closes today. Please sign up. And I hear it's very competitive.
It is. It's also so fun. So please sign up.
Yes, it's very competitive and very fun. Both close at 11:59 tonight. Yeah. It's a military time up here. No, I like that. Okay. Clap it up for the sponsors. We love our sponsors. Let's go. And pop. Okay. Perfect. Follow us on social medias. Social media head should be following the RITSEC social medias. If you're applying for social media head, you should be following.
And you applied?
So make sure that you follow. Maybe follow us on X. I don't know if Twitter's still a thing. It's X now. I don't know. And without further ado, we'll get into our weekly presentation. Core services given by Jose and Max. Woo! And Sohail helped. We only have one mic, so you guys will be switching it. Yeah, and then the camera, you can see where you are in the square. It actually might be. Oh no, I think you're good, Max. I want to make sure that doesn't cut you off. Okay.
Okay. Hello, everyone. So today we're gonna present about core services. I'm Jose, and this is Max. And Sohail was supposed to be with us, but he's in Rhode Island, so he abandoned us. Well, so, as I said, I'm Jose Gonzalez. I'm from Mexico. And during the summer, I did a co-op at Akamai. Akamai is largely known as Akamai Computer. I don't know how they call it nowadays. They've been changing a lot of things. And I'm also part of the ops group here at RITSEC. So we manage all the websites and services that are needed to run the club, and most importantly also the server room that we use for competitions and other activities that we do like the CTF. Some of my interests outside of computers is to go outside, very helpful sometimes when you're going insane looking at a computer. And I'm also a big Star Wars nerd, and I also run a home lab back at my apartment that I used to have virtual machine for testing or hosting other services, and that's pretty cool. I learned a lot of things I know for ops. I learned it just by testing there.
All right. Sohail had the audacity to put his "Who am I?" He doesn't care about you guys. That's why he's not here. He said, "Well, these nerds are presenting here. I'm actually touching grass." But don't worry about him. We got something so much better. We have Maxim Kochnev. That is me. I'm a second-year cybersecurity major. I'm from New York City, from the Holy Land of Staten Island. I'm interested in ops, which is basically I just ask Jose what he's doing, and I do the exact same thing. I love eating. I don't think anyone eats more than me. I'm probably RITSEC's hungriest member. Burned through dining dollars. I'm a jazz cat. I love playing the trumpet. I'm the jazz ensemble. I like basketball. And there's just me with Jose. Look at that happy guy sitting next to me. All right. So first, what is a service? This is our agenda. We're going to be going over first, what is a service? We'll be going over different types of services for both Linux and Windows. Then we're going over networking services, as well as other cool stuff that you should know about.
And also this presentation, if you're doing RITSEC, it's really, really important because a lot of these are here. You're going to have to keep up during the competition. And to be honest, the first time I did a competition, I had no idea what's going on. And I didn't know half of the services that were there. So if you want to do RITSEC, this is a very good presentation.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely listen to this. Okay. So first, what is a service? So I think of a service like, it's similar to like what a service would be in real life. If you have like a waiter comes to your table, they're your server. They're basically doing these tasks that you don't really do yourself. So a service is software that performs automated tasks, responds to hardware events, or this is for data requests from other software. You're going to be seeing a lot of services that run in the background, things that you don't set up yourself, that they just happen once you boot up your computer. So you're not going to see them running, but they're going to be doing all sorts of stuff for you, which if you didn't have them running automatically, you have to do all this garbage, which you don't want to do. So we're going to see a couple of them. And yeah. So first, we got Telnet, or Terminal Network. This is a type of protocol that enables one computer to connect to another computer by providing access to virtual terminals over a network or internet. So basically, you have one computer just talking to another computer. Everything is transmitted through plain text, which is really bad for security. We're going to see why in some Wireshark captures. Basically, like this is like basically what it's like. You got your computer here. It's talking to the other computer, and you can literally just have someone listen. So not very secure, but it's a way to access other virtual terminals from another computer. So here, if we look at this Wireshark capture, you're going to see a lot of packets with the info. You can see Telnet data. And so if you were to like highlight one of these and you just open it and use some TCP magic, you're going to see this login and password. Like, you cannot be caught lacking that bad. That is terrible.
That's terrible.
That is horrible. You got to make them like look a little bit. Not encrypted or nothing. It's literally just like there for you to see. So that probably not the best. So I'm not sure what other applications are unless you want to send like a cute little love letter to Red Team during a competition. I don't know what else you're gonna do this with, but
and also if you see an IP from China connecting to Telnet to your server, it's bad.
Yeah, probably not good. Yeah, probably not good. Not good. But it's okay, because enter Secure Shell. This is basically the replacement for this unencrypted Telnet. It's a secure network protocol to access remote computers and network. Basically the same thing as Telnet, except it's secure. You can tell because it has secure in the name. So it authenticates users, transfers input to the host. So whenever you type something in your terminal, it's going to input it to the host. terminal that you're logged into. So whatever is input here, this is kind of showing like the authentication happening, but whatever you input here, it's going to go through this, all this stuff, and it's going to input into the server, and then that's going to relay the output back to the client. So if you were to run like ls on the client, it's going to input that to here, and you're going to get the output of ls, whatever's in that directory, back here. And the authentication scheme, that's going to be held in right here /sc/ssh/sshd_config. And so I have in the next slide just like a capture from one of these containers that I had. So yeah, right up here you can see the port the SSH is on. You can see all these host keys where they're stored. The authentication here, permit root login.
This tool really important because like normally to secure an SSH server, like one of the recommended steps is to put your public public key inside of the SSH file. So when you're in the user, there's an .ssh folder which looks hidden, but if you do ls tag a, you can see it. And there's a file called authorized keys, and there you put your public key. And if your public key is there, you can use the private key to log into that server without needing a password. And that's more secure than using a password. So here you can turn off using passwords and only use public key authentication.
Yeah, so public key authentication is more secure than password, even like a really long password. In the next slide, we're actually going to see that process for it. So this is like showing kind of the authentication that happens. So here's the client. That's what you're trying to SSH into. That client is going to initiate that SSH connection to that server or whatever it is. And it's going to generate a random message. So here it's hello there. I'm not sure what kind of message it actually generates. I don't know if it's like an actual sentence. But then your client, it's going to encrypt that message with secret key, and it's going to send it back. And now this one, it's going to use the public key, which was derived from the private key, which was on your client. It's going to decrypt that and it's going to say, okay, is that the same as the thing that I sent? And if it is, then authentication is going to be passed. It's going to say, okay, you're good. And then they're going to agree on the session key. So that's, I believe it's going to basically be used to encrypt everything from then on, all the communication, so that they can talk encrypted. You'll see in the Wireshark capture that we got that everything is encrypted. You won't be able to see it like Telnet. And then, yeah, you got the encrypted data, which is a symmetrical algorithm. So in the next slide, we're going to see this Wireshark capture. As you can see, it's not just like info packet of everything that is on that in the communication. You're going to have all these encrypted packets, and if you look into them, it's going to be encrypted. You need the keys to decrypt it, so can't really do much. You can't find the username and password like you would Telnet. So that's why this is more secure. And you're going to see how this service is going to be used for. It's used for a bunch of other things. You use like SCP. I know Ansible uses SSH, right? You're going to see later SFTP. All these things use SSH just because it's encrypted communication.
And SSH, you're also probably going to use it during the competition to access your cloud process. So, Red Team is going to use SSH to get into your box. So,
so it could be a little dangerous sometimes when you have someone on your computer. You don't want them there. And then just like going back to like how it is like having like a service, like all this stuff happening, SSH is doing that all for you. You don't want to be like, oh, I got this key, let me authenticate, like decrypt it, send it back, make sure like everything is secure. SSH takes care of that. It's kind of showing these like core services how useful they are for just simplifying your work, all the stuff that you need to do. So now we got FTP, File Transfer Protocol. So this is basically exactly how it sounds. It's a protocol for transferring a file from one computer or one host to another. So it's not encrypted, just like Telnet. It's not very secure. I'll show you how it works, but for now we're going to go more depth. But FTP modes, you got active mode and you got passive mode. So what do these modes do? We got active FTP. Command channel is established by the client. So command channel, that's basically the channel that's set up that you're gonna have all your commands put in. It's gonna be what's read by the server, which establishes the data channel, and that's gonna send all the output from those commands, and it's gonna put that in the data channel. So that's active FTP. And now passive FTP, you got the command and data channel. They're both set up by the client. In this next picture, we're going to see how that actually works. So we have this client computer. This is the command port, the command channel. So it's going to be from port 21 here to a high port on the server. So that high port, I think it was like 1024 and above, something like that. So it's going to establish that. And then the server, you're going to see this. It goes FTP data connection initiation. That's going to set up the data channel. So basically, all the commands that are sent from that client, the output's going to be put into that command channel. Now, passive FTP, you can see both these arrows are coming out of the client computer and into the server. So I guess it's passive just because that server is not setting up any connection by itself. It's basically just standing there, and then the client has to set it up for it. So yeah, that's active FTP and secure FTP and passive FTP. But we know we had to secure it. So we got Secure File Transfer Protocol, or SFTP. Same basic functions as FTP, but it uses tunneling and performs file transfers over SSH. So now we're seeing like that stuff we did with SSH. It's being used in these other protocols to make it more secure, add a layer of nice encryption to it. So connection between the two hosts is encrypted, and same concept of SSH but with files. So I think in this slide, so you have your FTP client here. It's gonna make this data that's gonna be like a request for either to start the server or to what kind of file you want to transfer. That's going to get encrypted. It's going to get, I guess, evaporated into the internet. That's going to be pulled, decrypted. Same thing using like those keys. Make sure that everything's there's a lot of integrity with the data. Make sure it's coming from who it says it actually is coming from. It's going to pull that. Server's going to be like, okay, you need this, and it's going to send it back. You do the same thing back to the FTP client, and then you have a transfer protocol, and it's secure. Like FTP is not encrypted, but SSH, because it's using SSH, naturally it's more secure, more encrypted. You don't have your stuff just, floating around for everyone to grab. Okay, yeah, so that's FTP, SFTP. I'm going to pass it to Jose, and he's going to tell you about BNC.
So BNC, it's for screen sharing, and it's really useful because it works on multiple operating systems. For example, also Proxmox uses this for, I think Joe gave a presentation on Proxmox. This is what it uses to share the screen on the web GUI, and it's also, I'm pretty sure that it's used during the competitions in ComSol. It uses BNC. Yeah, I believe so. And you can look at the screen like if you were like directly on a monitor, and you can use keyboard and mouse. It can sometimes be annoying because not always you can copy paste things into it. So, but it's lightweight and also works Windows, Linux, and Mac OS, so pretty good. And now my SQL. Well, this is the structured query language that is used for databases. And I think during the competition, you're going to have SQL service that you're going to have to keep up. And this one can store any type of information, like, for example, here, blog articles, user credentials, and it listens on port 306. And you can interact with it with SQL commands. I recommend looking into that. It's a little bit different from what what normally is a programming language or anything because you're querying from the database, so it's a little bit different, but it's worth learning. And never do delete from table and forget this because it erases everything, every row. So you also have to be careful, especially like if you are on a production environment in a co-op. Be careful not to delete the entire database, please. Oh, and now RDP. So this one is the Windows Remote Desktop protocol, and you can like basically like VNC screen share and control the computer remotely. And this during competition, sometimes a red team likes to do this to some people, and it's not nice because they control it. And and this runs on port 3389. And there's a lot of different clients that you can use to access the servers. So this is just basically like applications that you can use to log in with RDP. Where did that? There we go. Yeah, so domain name system. So this is really, really important because basically it's what makes the internet work. So if you put google.com, DNS is going to give you the IP that you have to go to, so you can go to google.com. And I think during the competition, you're also going to have a service, a DNS service that's, I think it's getting scored, if I believe. And it has different types of records. So a record stores the IPv4 addresses. So for example, it points google.com is going to go to a.a.a.a.a. And it's really important for like the entire operation. And this is a very common service to break, so that's why this needs here. It's not DNS. There's no way it's DNS, but it is DNS. So it's very easy to break the DNS server, so be careful with that. But you can, like when you're using it, for example, in my home lab, I have a DNS server, and you can store like local records and use it to connect to your local machines with a domain. So this there's two types of DNS, which is recursive and iterative. So in recursive, so the client here is a recursive resolver, and that goes to the root name server, that sends it back, and then goes into the top level domain name server, and then back, and then to the I forgot that acronym, but the other name server, and that gives you the IP that you need to go to. So this server handles everything. So it just bounces off the instructions that is given. And now the iterative. So this one just goes through all of them and then back into your computer. So it's a little bit different how they work, but at the end of the day, it also gives you the same result. Well, some important commands that you can use to look up DNS is dig. So, for example, dig google.com at 8.8.8.8, and 4A, so it's the AAA record. That's gonna give you an IPv6, and it's gonna give you the IPv6 connected to that it's mapped to google.com. And NSLOOKUP, you can also use it to query the domain name, and it's gonna return the IP. Oh, and now web. I'm horrible at web, so bear with me. I don't know much about it, but basically it hosts, it serves static web files, so like HTML. So you set up Apache and give it an HTML file, and when you point your browser to that IP, it's gonna give you that HTML as a web page. And also this have like Nginx has the capability of reverse proxies, which I'm gonna talk in the next slide. So a proxy basically like redirects traffic. So in this one is a forward proxy. So these clients are behind the forward proxy. They send a request to the forward proxy, and the proxy sends it to the web server that you're trying to access. It sometimes can be used to mask who did the request, and several clients can be behind that proxy. And reverse proxy, this one is really useful. We use it a lot in ops and for hosting websites, because it basically what we do is that we can have several websites on the same box, and the reverse proxy is gonna point the different domain names to the different services there are, so to a different port. And basically here the request comes into the reverse proxy, and the reverse proxy knows where to send it to get that request that you need, that you're asking for. And it's also really useful for security. And some reverse proxies also, like Caddy, can be very helpful for, they manage certificates and makes it a lot easier to deal with that. Oh, and now DHCP. So this is also a very important part of the internet. So whenever you connect to a Wi-Fi access point, you don't think about anything. You just have an IP and you can browse. And this is thanks to DHCP, which basically, when you connect, it sends a discovery, then it sends the offer, request, and acknowledgement, and that gives you the IP for your computer. And the DHCP server is set up so it has a range of IPs that it can offer, and it also has like a lease time. So for example, it tells you, I'll give you this IP for a day, and you can use it to you can use that IP for that time. And it's very useful because it takes away a lot of the complication from like having devices connected and not having any IPs that conflict with each other. Okay, so I'm gonna pass it back to Max.
All right, so now we got mail services, or mail service. We have a really simple one. We have SMTP, Simple Mail Transport Protocol. That's going to happen on port 25. So you can check out this picture over here. What SMTP does is that it processes your emails. It finds the server, which it has to send a message to. So it's going to find your mail server. It's going to send it there, and that server is going to figure out where it has to send to. So you're going to have to send it to another person's mail server. So right here, you got the sender's mail server, and this person has his own mail server. He's going to have to get it. And the way that this person over here views what is in that mail server, you have two protocols here. You have POP3 and IMAP. I should have put what they stand for because I forgot. But POP3 allows you to download from the inbox to your local computer. So mail that comes into here, you can download it to your local computer. You can see what's there. It's not very advanced like IMAP, which allows the user to see all the files on the mail server. So they're accessing this mail server rather than just pulling the files from there and downloading to their computer. Yeah, so POP3, someone just told me that it's Post Office Protocol 3. And then is what? Internet Message Access Protocol. All right. Yeah, IMAP. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And thank you, Kenny. Yeah, so you get to, that's like how you access what's on your mail server that you receive mail from. Now next, Active Directory. That's going to go to Jose.
Here we go. This would be maybe when Soho comes in, but yeah, so Active Directory, it's very important as well. So it basically authenticates and authorizes users in a Windows domain. So in the competition, you're going to have an Active Directory and all the other computers are going to be enrolled in that domain. So this lets you have, Active Directory lets you have users, and those users, groups, and policies that you can give different permissions, and basically those users can log in to any computer on the network or the computers they have access to, and it makes it supposedly centralizes all the users, so it's easier to manage, and you can manage permissions, you can manage a lot of different settings, and it's useful, but it also very hard to manage sometimes because it's like I think it started like in 2000s. So it has, and because Windows has a lot of backward compatibility, so there's a lot of junk in there that and a lot of different tools that you can use, but not all of them are useful. Some are vulnerable, so it's a big mess, but it's good, and a lot of companies like it. And as it says here, it's even harder to secure, and this man will get you. Oh, and lightweight directory access service. Comes also Active Directory uses it to basically provides a structure for the Active Directory. So Active Directory, for example, let's say you have a domain example.com. So it follows this structure, the .com, then example, and then the organizational units. These are like basically other groups, and you can see like everything on. You can give like a policy to everyone under the organizational unit, and that's how you can control some of your permissions. And you also would, during the competition, would want to be very careful with the users that are like the users that are under your domain, because they're gonna have access to your computers, and there's gonna probably be some red team users there that are gonna try and get into your systems and mess your services up. Oh, and there's a tool. So on that searching, you can see the domain. So for example, here it's looking at that IP. LDAP is looking for the dcdevconnected.com, and it's gonna return the information it has on it. I'm not too familiar with this, but it's cool. Oh, and now Kerberos. Oh, oops. There we go. Yeah, so Kerberos is also used by Active Directory to provide authentication and single sign-on. So it uses symmetric key encryption. So whenever you log in from another computer, it's gonna use Kerberos to authenticate with the domain controller. So Active Directory domain controller that and make you be so you're able to log in to other computers that are not physically on the server. So it's like a really important part of Active Directory, although you normally wouldn't worry that much about it because it's an underlying service of Active Directory. There's also a lot of other uses, but for the competition, mainly you're gonna be worrying about Active Directory. Maybe. Oh, and Samba provides file and printing services, so you can do file sharing, and also like if the server is connected to a printer, you can print stuff, and it's cross-platform, so it's nice that way. But it's also really old, like 1992 old, and it supports Active Directory, but it's also kind of insecure over the internet, and it's I've heard that it's pretty the documentation is pretty large, so it's not used that much, but it is a useful tool, and it's gonna be on the competition. So a good service to know. And so this is how you access the files. So you do \, the IP you want to access and share, and that's normally gonna ask you for credentials, and then you can access the files on that Samba server. And you can also use that command line SMB client to do that, basically the same, and you can access the files there, and that's basically how it works. Well, and then WinRM is basically kind of like SSH but for Windows, and you can access and run commands over the network, and it uses port 5985 and 5986, and uses HTTP and HTTPS. And not all Windows this is enabled by default, so you should also check this, because also sometimes Red Team can use this to run commands on your Windows computer. And this is an example of a command that's run. So this one is basically calling WMIIC and which node is gonna run it in, and then process call create. So this is gonna create a call, and who am I? So this is gonna return that computer you're calling, the who am I command. Oh, and now other cool technologies. And Docker is really nice. So it's basically containerization, which it's like baby VMs as it explains here. And the cool thing about it is that it can run like almost anywhere, and you can like if you go online, you can search up like Nginx container, and you just download it and set it up super quickly, and it's super lightweight. And also you can make your own with Docker files and then export them and ship them to other computers or other people that might use it. And so this is how it works. So this is what normally like virtual machine hypervisor would work, and it's a lot more overhead, while Docker like just runs on top of the operating system, and then you have your apps on top of it. So yeah, it's as I said, it's very lightweight, and it has a lot of community support. So normally, if you have a question about it, you can find it online, and there's so many Docker images about like almost anything. So if you just Google it, you're probably gonna find one, and normally contains documentation on how to use it. And you can also make like complicated networks inside of Docker, and like it has a lot of depth that you can learn. And so the Docker file, as I said, is basically runs when you run a container. It sets it's a set of instructions that are run on that container when it starts. So it's very good to build your own container without just by starting it. So you just write the script, run it, and that container is gonna run all the instructions that you did. And the Docker images are the like that container as said. So it's the package that you're basically gonna run. So to start the container, and containers are the living like running instances of that. And Docker Compose is also really nice because it lets you form like more complicated deployments with several images, networks, and um, a lot of other variables that you can specify. And you just do Docker Compose up, and it's all comes up and it's running. And then you can do Docker Compose down, and everything is taken down. Super simple and super fast. Normally Docker Compose files are in YAML, so it's pretty nice to learn it because if you learn it, you can basically build an entire infrastructure just by using that file.
And just one thing about Docker containers, which I think is really cool. For one of my classes, we need to write some scripts for like Linux, for a Rocky Linux box. But I have a Mac, and some of the, even though it should be like the commands should be like match up for the Unix system, it doesn't really. So what I did, VS Code has like this cool compatibility with Docker, where I start up Docker desktop, and I have just a small Linux container, and whenever I want to basically program in a Linux environment, I like tunnel over to that container, and then I can basically run that program in that container, and it'll work like it's in an actual Linux box. And then when I'm done with that, I can use like the command docker copy, so it's docker cp, and you put the container ID, and then basically you have access to that file system, that container, and I just take that file and I just put it on my computer, and then I can just submit it. I think it's pretty cool.
Oh, so this is like the diagram of how it works. So if the Docker file builds the Docker image, and then here is the Docker Compose. So you grab the Docker Compose Docker file, and Docker Compose builds everything into Docker. So you don't have to, it just does it. Everything you write in that Docker Compose is gonna be deployed. And it's like once you have that file, it's super simple to change some things and bring it down, bring it back up. And it's one of the best tools and a lot of companies also use it. Oh, and CI/CD, it's continuous integration and continuous development, and so it basically automates building and testing, and ensures that the changes that you do in your code are merged into the repository and then are deployed. Mostly like you're not gonna use them like in small scenarios, but companies, almost everyone uses it, because it makes it way easier to just have a repository, push into it, and then it tests it out, and then deploys it. So it makes it very quick and seamless to have that process. So this is basically how it works. So you commit and into the Git repository, it tests it, it builds, tests, and then deploys into production, or it notifies if something failed and it needs to be changed. Okay, so thank you. And any questions? Yes.
What happens if you change the port mapping of these services?
Well,
Can you repeat the question?
yeah. What was the question? So, what happens if you change the port mapping of these services? Well, some things you can change, but it also messes up, especially like during competitions, because the scoring engine is expected to go to a certain port, so it's probably gonna break. For SSH, you can probably change the port unless it's the score service, and it works. Some people like to do that, but a lot of them, like if you change the map port, it can break a lot of stuff, especially when it interacts with other services.
You want to talk about some competition environment? What's something that people who are probably going to see this stuff environment
Like I feel like during my first competition I read a lot about these services, but it truly does not prepare you for it. It's very different actually knowing the theory than interacting with them. So if you are able to like try to create an environment that's similar to it, maybe put up Active Directory and see how the users work, how you can enroll other computers and try out different services and configuring them securely and doing managing them, because that's basically the only way that you're gonna get better at the competitions, because it's very different from theory, and it's way faster paced. So you need to be familiar with the menus and all the things that are there, and it's not easy. Oh, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Jose. Thank you, Max.